Welkom bij deze publieke ontmoeting. We gaan het gesprek doen in het Engels natuurlijk. En indien er vragen zijn, voor vertalingen is er geen enkel probleem. On va faire le débat en anglais. Et si on a des choses à demander pour traduire, il n'y a pas de problème. On parle toutes les langues, elle est possible. Donc, je vais passer le mot à Luc maintenant.
Okay, so we'll continue in English then, and of course, first let me please introduce the director of the Shadow Spirits, Mr. Harada, Masato. Also here is the producer of the film, Mr. Ogura Satoru. Okay.
Okay, I must say I've seen the movie now, and I was really overwhelmed with information. It's a difficult movie to grasp at first, because I didn't understand if it was a love story or it was a murder mystery or it was about. Could you tell something more, please, about what you were meant to say with the movie?
This is based upon the probably 1,000-page novel, and Mr. Kyogoku Natsuhiko, he created all these characters. So basically 5-6 detectives appear in each novel, and altogether he wrote 8 novels. And so always all those characters, leading characters, maybe 6, 7, and bad guys, some 3, 4, and there's so many others. So it's really complicated. And I thought, when I tackled this, I wanted to make a movie of relationship. And the novel was not divided into this kind of section. Just thinking about foreign audiences and others, when I worked on the screenplay, I thought, if I introduce all those characters in the beginning all at once, then it will really confuse everybody. And so I just wanted to focus each one, and first focusing on Enokido, the detective, with spiritual power, and sort of to open up the film as if it's a murder mystery with a detective story, and then gradually going into introducing a different type of characters. And then the second part, when I introduced this Sekiguchi character, because this is set in 1952, when the third man was released in Tokyo in September of that year. And so I borrowed Joseph Cotton's costume and attitude and gave it to Sekiguchi character, so that some foreign movie fans might recognize him as, okay, this is Hori Martins or something like that. And then finally, going into that Kyogoku character, he's a very Japanese character, and probably no overseas audience ever see this type of detective in kimono. But to tell you the truth, tonight I saw this movie for the first time with you gentlemen, you guys, and foreigners, and then even myself, I was a little bit confused. And so, obviously, this is a very Japanese film, and so many things going on, and subtitles. And I tried to read the subtitles this time, and it confused me. So I can't blame many people who walked out.
Do you mean like? Hello. The subtitles weren't always correct, or was it something? The subtitles?
No, just I worked on the subtitles along with a friend of mine, Ian McDougall, And so I knew the contents itself. But this time, when I saw that, just a couple of, this time, I tried to be as a foreigner, watching this movie as a first time. So try not to listen to the dialogue, but just concentrating on reading those dialogue. And then it didn't work for me. So just particularly painful for the first half an hour or so. Yeah, I was really tired watching my film.
Okay. But you introduce also this crazy professor, you know. How did you? Is it also a character from the books, or?
Oh, yes. And basically, all those characters are coming out of the book, and I'm still proud of those locations and atmospheres, and also the performers. They, particularly Shinichi Tsutsumi, who played Kyogok-do, and Abe Hiroshi, who played Enokizu, and Kippei, who played Sekiguchi. These three actors are the same age, all of them 42 years old when worked on this film. And they became really great friends. And so the camaraderie and the relationship among them inspired me to create a sequence of three of them together at the same time. It's not in the book, but I just wanted to get the best out of those actors and those relationship among those actors. And it still works for me. But then without those subtitles, I mean, even three of them talking at the same time, if you are Japanese, you can sense certain words, bits and pieces. And it's funny, but without subtitles and just a movie, then it's really difficult. And so,
but you said like it's based on a 1,000 pages novel. Was it difficult to find money to make this project? Like asking the producer, of course, because it's you see there is a big budget. There are beautiful mass scenes. There are the locations are very, very, very well set. It's the colors are very nice. It's all very detailed. It's all very nice. So how did you do that?
No, actually, this is a second.
It's not an easy story.
Right, second of the series, and everything was set when I joined. The producer and other financiers developed this, and so I was the last one on board. You can ask him that question.
I can speak English little, okay? Sorry. Japanese only. It between us. 制作費企画日本は、非常にファイナンスが複雑というよりも一般投資家から集めたりするっていうんじゃないんで、これはなかなか難しかったと。ただ本当に珍しいケースで一般の投資家からも集めたんだ、半分くらい集めたと。でこれは非常に稀なケース、めったにないケース。それだけこの映画にファイナンスさんも期待していた。
Well, actually, in Japan, when you finance movies, it's usually very, very complicated, and you have to get your money from all sorts of places. But this film was kind of exceptional in the sense that we got one big investor who put up more than half of the money. So in that case, it was quite unusual for Japan, where you usually have to get your money from all sorts of places.
That investor, was he particularly into the book or something that he wanted to? Why did he chose that project?
ありますが、それもありますけれども、彼が天才だから。Yeah, he's genius.
That was part of it, but also because we got the director on board, they were very generous with their money because he's a genius.
Okay. Now, just a little question about your career, because you're a director, you're a writer, you made commercials, you've been an actor, because you played, if I'm not mistaken, you were in The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. He was maybe you don't know it, but he played with Tom Cruise. So you're very you're very versatile as a person. You know, you have a lot of. What do you like most? Like you write. You've been a critic also before. You've been a movie critic.
Right, and the directing is easier than acting. And, well, actually, I enjoyed working on the Last Samurai. I learned a great deal of those Hollywood big production, and you know, this, but I'm not a professional actor, so I just concentrate on writing. Actually, I'm a professor now, and so I'm teaching at the university in Japan. Right after directing this, The Shadow Spirit, I started my career as a professor.
Okay, but I also read, I've found on the internet that you're very socially engaged. That you are, like for example, you made a movie also about the bouncy house girls. You know, the movie about the Japanese young prostitutes.
Right, and compensating dates and that kind of social issue always attract me. So I was attracted to some of those political subject of this story, and you know, 1952 is an interesting era, and we tried our best to recreate that kind of atmosphere, and that's why we went to China. Actually, after working with Tom Cruise as an actor, I worked with Jet Li, a film called, I don't know whether the film was released in Europe or not, but that was shot in Shanghai. That's how I discovered all those interesting Chinese locations. So when Mr. Ogura offered me this job, immediately I thought about combining all those Chinese locations, because it gave me a feel like, oh, this is Japan. When I saw when I was a kid, you know, just working on this Jet Li film in Shanghai, and I told him that, you know, just mixing all these Shanghai locations and some of those Japanese temples and the shrines makes things really interesting to recreate a special atmosphere of 1952. And so this acting career worked from that regard. And it's kind of daring do for a Japanese production, because we started this production, shooting this film in December 2006, and shot about 25 days in Japan. And then we stopped shooting in hiatus for the New Year's holiday. And then mid-January, we went to Shanghai for another 11 days shooting. And normally, producer won't take that kind of risk. But everybody agreed on those, you know, using...
You have a good producer.
Yeah, right. He's genius. But
So,
actually, I want to hear the audience reaction and what they think about it.
are there any questions or something somebody wants to say about the movie? Okay.
You mentioned that that you tried to watch it this time with just the subtitles, and to watch it like a foreigner, and that you were a little uncomfortable for the first half hour. How does it play differently in Japan with in the native country?
The audience reaction in Japan was, well, generally good. Because of the pacing. You know, if you understand all those language and then how it's played out, the rhythm is quite, and so that kind of speed, you can sense it just listening to Japanese dialogues, and it's really witty. But subtitles, of course you lose certain nuances, and then it slows you down to understand the story itself. And then, again, there are so many Japanese names on the subtitles, and I was tired of reading Japanese names, Shibata, Kanako, you know, those names. And so, yeah, that's basically the difference. But then, again, there's this hardcore Kyogoku Natsuhiko fan, the novel fan. Those opinions are split in half because this is so different from the novel itself. So that's basic reactions.
Ok, encore des questions?
はい、こんばんは。おめでとうございます。とても面白いでした。I speak in English now. Okay. My question is, I was a little bit astonished about the way you chose to give the title Shadow Spirit, and then it wasn't really about spiritism, not really about fantastic, but about science and mad science. We see really few bizarre things or fantastic things, but we see mad science and the outcome in the human brain. I was wondering, was it on purpose that you chose to elude every part of fantastic aspect, ghosts, things like that, and only show science?
Basically, that's what the author intended. And then, for example, there are certain sequences I wanted to use more of the physical force. Like, for example, Detective Enokido. I wanted him to get engaged with more action. But that, whenever I try to go that kind of direction, the author wouldn't agree. I mean, he was very cooperative, but he has very strong images on those characters and what he can do and he can't do. And so that's one of the restrictions. If I wanted to go to more of the fantasy area, then no, you know, there's a novel which sort of limits itself, and the climactic the showdown, confrontation between Kyogoku-do and Mimasaka is almost exactly like in the novel. And that was the only one where I was, you know, even when working on the screenplay, it took 6 months to get approval from the author, from the producers. He's not the only one producer, and the other financial people. And so this kind of screenwriting session, feedbacks, and you know, that went on and on. And as a style, structure itself, I had a freedom to change the novel. But then if I change the character and then add more violent sequences, then it was prohibited. So getting back to your question, that everybody tried to get the essence of the novel, and this is a result. And the author was very pleased with the film itself.
Somebody else? Quelqu'un d'autre? Okay. You, on several occasions in the movie, you talk about the third man. You see the posters on the wall. He talks about it, and then there's, which is also one of my favorite quotes. It's when they're sitting in the Prater in Vienna when he says about the Renaissance and what it did for Italy, and then the Swiss who only have the cuckoo clock. Why did you put that in? Is it because it's you wanted to put it in because it's not really relevant for the story, but why did you want it to?
It was not in the book, but not only using the third man as a background, but I wanted to use the third man element more to the Kubo. I just forgot my character's name, Kubo. There are so many Japanese names.
Maybe we should subtitle it.
Right. And Kubo, if Kubo recites that famous Orson Welles line, then people start thinking, okay, he doesn't look like Orson Welles, but his character is somewhat similar to Harry Lime. And that's exactly what I wanted. And so I needed him to say that particular line.
But it goes about morality, of course, because also in The Third Man, he's a very immoral person. Right. And also here it's the same. Yeah.
So it's just to explain this Kubo's character in, for broader audience.
I also noticed the music was very special. It was nice. See, in your other movies, you are very fond of music. I have read, and that you're into that. It's very peculiar in your looking for the music. Do you look at for the music yourself, or do you have people helping you, or how do you do it?
Oh, the composer, he's been working for me for the past, the same composer who worked on Inugami, and also the, actually, this is the third time we work together. And so that way I asked him to look for great theater player, and then that third man's theater music I wanted to have. But actually, there are altogether maybe 30 music numbers, scores, a little bit too much. So right after this, The Shadow Spirit, I directed a film called Climbers High. It's dealing with the 1985 Japan Airline accident and how those stories covered by local newspaper guys. And for this music, there's only 15. So just, it's a nice music, but maybe just a little bit too much.
Okay, now that you're talking about it's still in post-production, or is it finished?
No, it's done, and then it will go out on July the 5th in Japan, and it's going to be really big, and probably, well, I hope it will come to European film festivals soon. So I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about this film, Climbers High, soon. And again, the same Shinichi Tsutsumi, who played Kyogokudo, plays the lead of this Climbers High. And we are buddies.
And he's the producer of different. No, you're the. Oh, okay, but another thing I wanted to ask is, the movies you already made are very different. You know, it's not like you could categorize yourself into one style. Like you always make something different. It's not the same always. Do you always go on looking for something new, or?
Story-wise, yes, I'm looking for something new, but the characters, basically, I'm always making movies about Hawksian people. Howard Hawks created all those relationship dramas, and so I care for characters and how they develop each other in terms of relationship. And so it's to me, you know, no matter how the background changes and the subject matter changes, differs, basic characters and relationship drama, I want to depict always the same.
Okay, but you are very into, if I may believe what I read on the internet, of course, you like science fiction very much.
I used to love science fiction a lot, Isaac Asimov and, you know, so others, and so I directed a film called Gunhead in 1988. But then afterwards, I tried to develop other science fiction projects in Hollywood, but then it's all failed. And so for now, I'm not thinking about any project in that area. But in the future, maybe if I have enough budget and good material, I want to go back to that area too.
Okay.
But again, even in science fiction, a film like Gunhead, what I created was Howard Hawks' relationship drama.
But I've seen you changed your name on the movie. It's now Alan Smithy. I've seen that you.
That's using that Alan Smithy title is for the dubbed version only. If it's original version, I keep my name.
Ah, okay.
And Alan Smith's name is on the Toho company. They made a dubbed version in Hong Kong without my approval. That's why I used this Alan Smith's credit.
To distance yourself from that version. Ah, okay. Some more questions from the audience? No? Anybody? No? Okay.
I have one. Okay. No, I just like when we first met in the mid-90s when you did Kamikaze Taxi, we were talking about. I mean, you had your Hollywood ambitions as well, and you made some films, like you made this film in Canada, Rowing True. And you've sort of been shifting back and forth between Japan and the United States, or has it become easier or more difficult to make films in Japan the past 15 years and in the United States?
It's very interesting. That question itself is interesting because now there's a lot of foreign producers. For example, American producers interested in projects shot in Japan, and then the British producers want to make a Japanese film because there are several writers, authors, particularly British authors, like David Mitchell and David Peace. They originally came from England and went to Japan as a language English school teacher. And then after staying 7 or 8 years, ended up writing a beautiful novels set in Japan. And one of them is called Number 9 Dream. And that project is right now I'm working on, and with British producers. So things like that start happening, and then Japanese, the border of Japanese films are sort of wider. And then I have other projects being developed in the States as well, and I grew up with watching American westerns and those war movies and things like that. And so eventually I want to make a western. Not a samurai western like a Red Samba.
Not Sukiyaki Django, another one.
No, never like Sukiyaki western.
Okay, some more questions? Another question.
I just forgot my question, of course. Sorry. My question was, okay, what do you think about the fact that we had some difficulties about understanding really the plot of the story, and You talked about the pace, which was really Japanese one that Japanese would understand. What do you think about the habit of the Americans to remake movies, foreign movies, their own way? By instance, there's The Eye, which was remade. Actually, it's out now in Belgium. And so many foreign movies, which are good but are different, they are remade in America and reshot again. What do you think about that habit? Do you think your kind of movie could be remade for European or American audience?
Well, yeah, some films are good for remakes, but not always. I mean, for example, even my first film I made in 1979, and then a couple of years later, when the film was shown, it's called Goodbye Flickmania, and there are some Hollywood producer who wanted to make that as a remake for American movie. But so I have, it's depend on what kind of project you are talking about. And then in case of The Eye, I don't know the original version. I haven't seen both versions, so I can't say anything about that. But then, for example, my Kamikaze Taxi, I'm thinking about remaking it as an American feature. But then Tom Cruise stole it and made a terrible film called Collateral. And
I didn't understand which one.
Collateral. Yeah, they, definitely part of that was inspired from Kamikaze Taxi, and it's all those characters. I can tell which one is similar to what plot he used, things like that. So, but still, I'm going to remake an American version of Kamikaze Taxi by myself in the future, probably Benicio del Toro playing the lead, something like that.
Okay. Somebody? Okay, then we will round it up. I would like to thank you very much for showing your film here at the festival.
Thank you very much for staying this late.
And hope to see you soon with your new movie. Thank you.